My name is Boyden, and I'm an artist, I'm a writer, curator, and I'm currently the executive director of the San Juan Islands Museum of Art, located in northwestern Washington. I'm a Wesleyan alum, class of 1995, and while I was at Wesleyan, I was an East Asian Studies and Art History major. And the culmination of my thesis, interestingly enough, was an exhibition called The Peripatetic Brush, 4 contemporary Chinese American calligraphers and their use of the past. And that exhibition was held in this room. So for me, this exhibition is an incredible honor. I get to return to a point of origin, a point which actually set much of the course of my life history ever since. The last 20 years have been shaped directly by this room. In 2007, I decided I would take a walk and that I was going to go hike up through the North Cascades. And while I was taking this walk, I encountered the aftermath of a giant forest fire. And this particular fire is called the Tripod Complex Fire. And as I walked into this forest fire, I had this crazy experience where I saw myself walking into a Chinese landscape painting. It was as if the entire history of all the paintings that I've been looking at suddenly turned three-dimensional. And there I was, walking into this, and each of the trees with these burned spires could have been like brushstrokes. And it blew my mind. It completely changed the way in which I was relating to forests and changed the way in which I was relating to landscape in ways where instead of it being something that was a historical phenomenon, and it became something that I felt had something that directly related to who I was, rather than something that was related to what another culture is. I started to collect carbon from those trees. I met inkjet ink makers from Nanjing, and I commissioned them to make ink out of this Northwest carbon fire. And I took the photographs from those trees that I'd collected carbon from, and I printed them with the carbon from the trees themselves, so it became a reciprocal argument. The photograph is made with the very material that the photograph is of. I began to show it to my Chinese friends, and they would look at me and they'd say one word. They go, Niappan. Like, that's the Chinese word for nirvana. And of course, it means extinguishing, and you're escaping the cycle of rebirth. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll go back, look it up in Sanskrit. And when I did that, I found that one of the primary etymologies 2,000 years ago was the extinguishing of a forest. And I realized at that moment that I had an opportunity. I could take these images of trees and simply keep them as these massively awesome sculptures that were about carbon, or I could open it up to be an invitation for us to contemplate this very fundamental Buddhist concept, most important end game of Buddhist philosophy. So the argument that I'm really trying to make is that we are our environment, that the self and the environment are inextricably linked. They are one and the same thing. And so for me, this invitation to contemplate nirvana has ended up becoming an invitation to contemplate a new form of ecology for me. It's recalibrated the way in which I'm relating to my world.